we're talking about the 3 musts for body composition improvement today. Peter, what are you doing right now to work on your body composition, or are you?
I always am to a certain degree.
Right.
There are certain habits which we'll dive into later, but there's a certain thing that I want to do to practice what I preach, play the part per se. And you know how you look, unfortunately or fortunately, it's part of the process. So my goal is kind of more on a maintenance phase. I would say I'm usually relatively lean. I tend to lose a lot of muscle mass if I'm not careful. I'm dealing with a meniscus thing right now, so it's a bummer, but also grateful for how great it's been for so long. What about you, Kyle? What are you doing right now?
I right now am the lightest I've been since my sophomore year of high school.
That's
actually, which
crazy.
was not intentional until, not really intentional at least, but I just view body composition and nutrition specifically as an area that's, I think, kind of fun to just try to get like 1% better every few months or so. Okay, what can I do a little bit better right now? What can I do a little bit better right now? And that's just led to me probably having the best body composition I've had ever, which is pretty cool.
For sure.
So it's unintentional that I've gotten as light as I have, but I've just been dropping a good amount of body fat, which has been cool, and I might pivot towards more of a gaining phase of muscle mass coming up soon. But
just so you guys know, this guy's getting married soon, so I'm curious what he's going to look like in his suit. So I was wondering where he's going to go.
I haven't gotten measured yet because things keep changing. It's good that I haven't, but yeah, TBD. But anyways, let's get into the nuts and bolts of body composition improvement. Our objectives for today: cover the 3 concepts that must be met to improve body composition. Yeah, there's 3 big rocks that we're going to cover. And then focus on common methods we use to help clients meet those concepts. So if you've been listening to our talks, that's a big theme, right? The difference between concepts and methods. There's many ways to get to the same endpoint as long as you know why those things are working. Hey, what are the concepts you're fulfilling? Okay, so let's really going to hammer that point home today. Okay. So before we get into what the concepts are, what even is improving body composition? Favorably altering the relative percentages of fat mass and lean mass, which would, muscle is the most modifiable portion of lean mass, but also bone, organs, that all kind of goes into lean mass in your body. And that can be done by decreasing fat mass, increasing lean mass, or both, right? It may or may not involve changing your total body weight. We'll get to that in a second as well.
Kyle, what % of clients would you say when you first meet them and they want to come and train with you that body composition is a huge key and important aspect of why they want to hire you?
I'd say at least 80%. Yeah, and whether or not it's what they say is their top primary goal, maybe they list it as number 2 or number 3, and maybe that's because they feel like there's some shame around wanting to change the way they look, and really there's nothing wrong with it, right? Like it is part of your health, not just in terms of your confidence and what you look like when you check yourself out in the mirror. But having more muscle mass is huge for many things: your capacity, your longevity down the road, your metabolic health, right? So there's many reasons that you would want to improve your body composition.
And I always joke around, if people don't mention it in their top 3, I just say they're lying. Plain and simple, because yes, I don't know if anybody's on top 3, and I think it should be.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. So, the 3 concepts that matter. Number 1, strength train. Okay. This sends the signal to build or maintain muscle mass. Right? So this is huge. No matter what you're trying to do, strength training is going to be a key portion of improving your body composition. Number 2, eating sufficient protein to provide the fuel to build or maintain muscle mass. And then number 3, appropriate total calories. Okay. So if you want to lose weight, aka lose fat, right? So let's try to think of never saying I want to lose weight, I want to lose body fat. So I don't kind of want you to shift your mindset towards. No one wants to lose muscle mass except maybe in the fewest of cases of a former NFL lineman who's okay losing some muscle mass, right? But you want to get into a caloric deficit to lose weight, aka fat. If you are strength training and eating enough protein, you'll maintain muscle mass and bias that weight loss to fat loss. If you get into a caloric surplus to gain weight, aka muscle mass, that's the weight that you want to gain, as long as you are strength training and eating sufficient protein, the caloric surplus that makes you gain weight will be mostly muscle mass. Okay? Or you could stay at caloric maintenance, which will make your weight stay the same, and you'll be aiming for some of both. If you are strength training and eating sufficient protein, you'll be aiming for a little bit of muscle mass increase, a little bit of fat loss. Yeah. So let's dive deeper into those concepts. Yeah, so number one, strength train. My favorite simple line is, if you have to ask if what you're doing counts as strength training, it doesn't, right? So if you're like, I walk with a weighted vest when I hike, or if I have some 3-pound arm weights and I just get a quick little pump, or I do some curls while I'm riding the stationary bike, or I lift for my upper body and I run for my legs. All of those do not count, all right? So what are we talking about when we're saying strength training?
They count as movement, right?
It's better than nothing.
Movement is good.
It's better than nothing.
But
right?
it doesn't check this bucket.
It does not check this box. Okay. So for strength training, training volume in terms of hard sets per week, anywhere between like 5 and 30 reps is the variable that matters the most if you're thinking about body composition, improving body composition. Okay. Around 10 sets per pattern/muscle group is a good place to start, but that could be much higher depending on your training age and goals. Just wanted to give you a rough idea of the kind of the volume we're looking for here. Okay. And if you're not getting the results that you want, you basically just need to ensure that the intensity of your sets is high enough. So kind of 0 to 2 reps left in the tank, meaning, if I'm doing a set of 8 and I grab a pair of dumbbells, if that set of 8 doesn't count if I could have done 15 with that weight, right? So for the purpose of this, it's like, hey, we want more hard sets in the week.
So when you say real quick, like when you say per pattern or muscle group, what do you mean by that?
Yep. So per pattern or muscle group, we've talked about it in some of our previous podcasts, like Strength 101. Most people probably think about their strength training in terms of muscle group. Okay, how many sets of chest and shoulders and triceps and back and biceps and quads and glutes and hamstrings am I doing? And that works. You can do that. Kind of aim for 10 sets per muscle group. We generally think about it more in terms of per movement pattern, because most of the patterns you're going to do involve multiple muscles, and it kind of becomes this needless arbitrary exercise of, well, does this count for this or this? And so when we talk about our main movement patterns, we're talking about upper body pushing and pulling. So upper body pushes would be push-ups, bench press, dumbbell presses, right? Various angles of kind of horizontal angles and vertical angles. Pulling would be anything where I'm pulling towards me, so like a row, a dumbbell row, a cable row, a pull-up, a pull-down. Then you'd have in the lower body kind of your hinging patterns and your squatting patterns. So your squatting patterns would be any sort of squat variation, like a leg press variation, split squats, lunges, things where you're kind of pushing the floor away. And then your hinging variations would be things like, we just call them hinges, but Romanian deadlifts is another name for it, where you're hinging at your hips. Deadlift variations, anything that works the backside of your body, like bridges or even hamstring curls, would all kind of fall into that family, right? So in those kind of 4 major movement patterns, can you get at least 10 sets per week? And then if you want to sprinkle in more isolation work on top of that, okay, I want even more tricep work, even though my triceps are involved in upper pushes. Great, go ahead, right? But that's kind of the way we're looking to kind of break things up and categorize things here, right?
Great.
So, sound good?
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool.
Thanks for clarifying.
Of course, yeah. So, if you're not getting the results you want, ensure the intensity of the sets is high enough, and then add more volume if needed, right? If you think that this area is the lowest hanging fruit, again, we'll kind of loop back to it later to see, hey, is it? Maybe it's not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, moving on to concept number 2, eating sufficient protein. Okay. So, again, strength training sends the signal to build muscle if you're looking to gain muscle mass, or to maintain muscle if you're looking to bias fat loss. Protein is the fuel for that, right? 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. Okay? My simple line for this one is, if you're not intentional about this, it's highly unlikely you are doing it. All the time when we sit down with people and kind of go over, hey, where are you at right now? If they're not conscious about their protein intake, it's incredibly rare that they are accidentally in this zone already. So this is usually one of the first diet interventions that we'll do with people, is ramp up their protein intake a little bit.
One of the super cool things about this too is a lot of people they find they're not desiring other things as much because their body's getting the demands that they're asking for. And generally it's very satiating. So it's nice where it's almost makes it easier for them to kind of hit their benchmarks.
Yeah, and mentally too, just to be like, my nutritionist, so that people always think they're going to need to restrict. So when you tell them that the first thing you want them to do is have more of something, that's not what they were expecting either, right? This one should be the easiest one to hit of the 3 things, right? So our recommendation is track this at least initially, at least for a couple days, Track it either in grams, kind of figure out all your meals and just take the energy for a couple days to see, okay, breakfast here with what I put together, okay, that was 30 grams, okay, lunch, oh, that one was only 15, dinner, okay, dinner was 40, okay, oh, that was only 85 grams, I'm 200 pounds. Oh, I'm not there, right? Or if you don't want to do the grams, at least track in palms of protein, where each palm is 25 grams of protein. So calculate how many palms you need. So if I'm roughly a 200-pound individual, I kind of want about 8 palms in my day, right? So generally for females, that might be in the 4 to 6 palms range. For males, more like 6 to 8. And then a palm of meat, so chicken, beef, turkey, so some palm of lean meat, a scoop of protein powder, a cup of low-fat Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, 4 eggs, or anything else that's around 25 grams of protein can count as a palm. And then again, you're just trying to get that many palms in your day. 1, assess where you're at right now. Oh, I'm only at 3. How can I get more? And then once you're rolling, hey, maybe that's something that you roughly track. And it's not that hard if you're tracking it just like that to track all the time. Hey, can I get my 6 palms of protein today? Boom. Okay, check that box.
Yeah, and some of you guys that would say I'm 250 pounds and I'm trying to get down to 175. Let's say we like to use more of that lower number to kind of use your benchmark versus somebody who's 250, 300 pounds and trying to eat 300 grams of protein. It's like that can be a lot. So kind of thinking more where that more ideal weight is. We won't get into the details there too much, but that 0.7 is generally a good place to start for most if you're not doing it like Kyle was saying, but don't feel like it's just astronomical. Kind of like Kyle was saying at the beginning, can I get a little bit better than where I've been? And as we've said, this is a really good place to start that tends to feed into a lot of great other things.
Yeah. And it's the hardest nutrient to overdo. One is because it's physically hard to get that much protein in. It's very satiating. But also, there's not too much benefit to going beyond this 1 gram per pound number in most cases, as far as what the research shows. So basically just get to this zone, and then you can kind of consider this concept done for the most part, right? But if you're not getting the results you want, just track again. And again, be sure you are checking this box, okay? If you are at 1 gram per pound a day, you're already at the high end of this range, and Peter said you might want to be at the lower end of the range if you're trying to lose a significant amount of weight, but if you're at the high end of this range, you'd likely see more benefit from doing concepts 1 and 3 better than going to 2 grams per pound of body weight a day. Okay. So moving on to concept number 3, appropriate total calories. Okay. The reason we hit concepts 1 and 2 first are just because no matter what the goal is, you want to do those things. Again, if you're trying to lose fat, you still want to strength train and need enough protein. You're trying to gain muscle, you still want to strength train and need enough protein. Can't hammer that point home enough that no matter what, you want to do point 1 and 2. Okay, so now let's focus a little bit more on point 3 here, because this is where the variation is going to come in depending on what your goal is. Okay, so a calorie deficit will make you lose weight, aka body fat if you're doing number 1 and 2. A calorie surplus will make you gain weight, aka muscle mass if you're doing steps 1 and 2. Right? Maintenance will have you maintain weight. Which should you do? What's most important to you? What do you care about the most? It's easy to be like, all of it. I just want all these things, right? What is most important to you? Okay. But some tips that we might offer you are that increasing muscle mass does increase your basal metabolic rate, or how many calories you burn at rest. So therefore, focusing on muscle mass first can make losing body fat later easier, right? So that's just one thing to consider. And then number 2, if you have training experience, creating significant change at maintenance gets harder. So early on, you just can't really do any wrong. If you just get in the gym and strength train, you need enough protein, you don't even think about this, probably good things are going to happen. Down the road, as you're trying to get more fine-tuned, your body is just really good at maintaining homeostasis, and it's going to be easier to create change if you kind of kick it in one direction or the other. And then, people have heard about bulking and cutting, and typically that's kind of bro language. For bulking means I eat whatever the heck I want, and cutting means I get crazy restrictive, and it doesn't need to be like that, but all the same, kind of having a clear focus towards a surplus or a deficit can be helpful as you get more advanced.
And we have some infographics we'll show in a little bit that kind of dive into that, again, depending on where you're at and where you want to go, and what's allow you to kind of go to that next step. What should I do? I'm here, I want to go here, now what?
Yeah, love it. Yeah. So continuing here with appropriate total calories, let's talk more about a calorie deficit to lose weight, aka fat. Okay. big concept overall. If you aren't losing weight, you're not in a deficit. So there's no, I'm in a calorie deficit, but I'm not losing weight, so I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm broken. Nope, you're just not in a deficit. Something is off with what you think your deficit is, right? It is easier to consume less than it is to burn more. So although you could, run yourself into a calorie deficit, that's possible. It's going to take more energy to do it. It takes more energy to burn the donut off than it does to not eat the donut, is a good simple way to say it, right? And aiming for a 300 to 500 calorie deficit a day is a good place to start, right? So again, next time you're in the gym doing some cardio work, see how long it takes you to burn 300 to 500 calories and ask yourself if you want to do that every day for forever and have that be the method that you use to get into your calorie deficit. Probably not, right? And not that cardio is bad for you, that moving more is bad for you. Of course, it all helps, and there's many other reasons to do cardiovascular work, but using that as your sole tool for this is most likely not going to go well.
And most, our bodies, like I was saying, really want to be at that kind of homeostasis. So you might, using this example, burn 300 calories on the treadmill, but 3 months later you've been doing the exact same thing. Now you might be only burning 200 because your body's adapted. It's no longer as strong of a stimulus, or even think of these ultra endurance marathon people. You would think that they're going to shrivel away to nothing, but their body gets really good at kind of maintaining and finding that and giving you those triggers to eat a little bit more. So that's why we want people to kind of look outside the box, because for forever, especially more for the females, this has been their thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep doing more cardio, keep doing this, and it's like, there's other options. A lot of times, better options.
Yeah. Yeah. So optional methods to help yourself, restrict your total caloric intake. Remove 2 to 4 total, like handfuls of carbohydrate or thumbs of fat from your day. Basically just taking a little bit of your non-protein calories away. So that could look like, hey, normally at breakfast I have 2 pieces of toast. I'm taking that down to 1, and at dinner I had 3 handfuls of pasta. I'm going down to 2. Okay, see what happens, right? Another option, track what you are doing now. You could track, again, in terms of kind of our precision nutrition hand portions, or you could, track it in full detail, every single thing you have in something like MyFitnessPal or one of the other calorie trackers out there. See what you're doing now, regardless of what that number is. If your weight's been staying the same, that's your maintenance. That's kind of your net zero calorie intake level. Try to remove 300 to 500 calories and see what happens. Again, like we've said, it might not work right away because your body might make the adjustment somewhere else. You might expend 300 to 500 less calories of energy in your day, whether or not that was conscious activity removal or whether your body was just tired and you fidgeted less. Or that can totally happen. So again, don't be frustrated. Just if you get into a deficit, you will lose weight. If you're not losing weight, you're not in a deficit, right? Another optional method, increasing food quality. So more veggies. We already talked about more protein being more satiating and usually making you eat a little bit less. Using whole food sources for your carbohydrate and fat intake. Increasing fiber. All these things will make you feel satiated with less. There's a graphic I love sending to people that says, what is 100 calories of this food? For something like strawberries and broccoli, it's a big old plate. For M&Ms, it's a very small amount, right? So eating more whole foods, it's just more volume of food. It brings in more water and fiber intake, and it's slower digesting, and all these things make you feel more satiated with less. So it doesn't necessarily have to feel like you're just taking away. Your plate actually might look like it has more on it if you increase your food quality.
And a good point here is, Kyle mentioned earlier, is track. Yeah. You don't know what you're doing unless you're tracking, unless you're having some sort of way to see what's happening. Kyle, you had an experience with a client recently regarding tracking. You want to briefly talk about that?
Yeah. They were frustrated because they thought they were at a very low calorie intake number for what they thought they, quote unquote, should be at, and they weren't losing weight. So, hey, what's wrong with me? I should maybe get checked out. There might be something weird going on. And just hold on. It's much more likely that you're just not doing this as well as you think you are. And upon further investigation and prodding, it was revealed that they weren't tracking their salad dressing, the oil they cooked with, butter, any condiments. These are all, nothing's, not that you can't have those things at all, but in moderation because they're calorie-dense foods. So not tracking the tablespoon here and the 2 tablespoons there adds up pretty fast. And when he did that for a few days, he realized he was having 500 to 700 calories more per day than he thought, right? And now that doesn't really change the plan moving forward. Regardless, we needed to do something to kind of push him towards a deficit if that was his goal. But now just mentally, he felt much better about that. He's like, oh, I actually do have much more room for improvement than I think, right? So regardless of where you're at, figure out your baseline and make a little change from there and see what happens.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have known unless he checked.
Nope.
And another time to check in, ask for help.
Yeah.
This isn't working. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then one more method we'll throw at you, just the simplest one, eat slowly and mindfully to 80% full. This is a habit we love for everyone, because again, this can naturally make you eat a little bit less and improve your digestion and improve your stress just by, taking time for yourself. But, this is a less complex, less surefire method than tracking every detail, but it takes a fraction of the effort, right? So that might be where you start. Hey, I'm just gonna eat slower. Hey, I might actually eat a little less. I get the calorie deficit, I lose some body fat, boom, I'm done. I don't even have to do anything else. That could totally happen. So.
And slowly is the mantra is to roughly try to take 20 minutes to have your meal.
Yeah.
And there's so many different tricks, but most people can, well, I eat slowly, time yourself. Yeah. Oh shoot, that was 7.5 minutes. Yeah. And I ate slow. Yeah. And so it's just a nice little, again, another way that we're tracking, another thing to see, but there's so many options. Start somewhere. Yeah.
Again, big concept. If you want to lose body fat, you want to lose weight, got to be in a calorie deficit. These are optional methods, and there's more. There's more methods out there, right? But the concept is calorie deficit. Moving on to calorie surplus. Say you're looking to gain muscle mass and you want to gain weight. If you aren't gaining weight, you're not in a surplus. So just flipping the concept on its head here, right? Aiming for a 300 to 500 calorie surplus is a good place to start for this, right? So optional methods. You're going to see kind of just a flip of the last slide. Adding 2 to 4 total handfuls of carbohydrate or thumbs of fat to your day. So maybe, hey, I'm going from 1 piece of toast to 2. I'm going from 2 handfuls of rice to 3. I'm putting an extra half an avocado on my eggs in the morning. I'm bringing in extra intake from whatever I was currently doing. You can track exactly what you're doing now again in some sort of calorie tracking app, whatever that number is. That's your baseline if you have not been gaining weight, and now add 500 calories to that and see what happens. You still want the bulk of your intake to be quality whole foods, just like everyone else, right? They're just more nutrient dense. They're just going to be better for your body in many, many ways. But if you're having trouble getting enough calories in because you just don't have quite the same appetite, you might need some calorie dense options to help you get enough calories in, because that's your goal. Again, as long as you're strength training and eating enough protein, and if you put yourself slightly into a surplus, it's going to be mostly muscle mass. So you might need some things like peanut butter and trail mix are some of my favorites I use with like my, kind of the classic like high school athlete who's just sticks and bones and just has a hard time putting on weight. Hey, a cup of trail mix is like 600 calories. Can you just eat everything you're eating now and then add a cup of trail mix to your day? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, well, let's see what happens, right? And oftentimes it can be that simple, right? So this one should be easier than the deficit if you use tools like that.
So a fun little story I had, because I spent many, many years trying to gain weight. And so taking this kind of analogy, I was in college and I was like, a king size Snickers bar is 580 calories. Oh, I will just do everything else that I know I was doing and add that. And my roommates just laughed at me. And for like a week I was on it because I liked them. But then about 2 weeks into it, I hated Snicker bars. And then my roommates were pumped because I just gave the rest to everybody else. So again, finding what works for you, but it was trying to use this concept. I found other ways that were a little bit better for me, but it was worth a shot, and I didn't know until I tried.
I was the peanut butter bagel guy in high school. That's like what I was known for. In high school, I went from 165 to 225 pounds for football performance purposes.
Over how long? How long a period?
2 years.
Nice.
60 pounds, 2 years. And I just ate 3 peanut butter bagels a day, right? I was trying to think, hey, how can I do this cheaply? I was just, didn't want to ask my parents to be buying bougie things, and peanut butter, bagels, ate enough of them until I gained weight. It wasn't rocket science, right? Just took consistency. So I never got sick of them. I still like a good peanut butter bagel. Yeah.
Try my Snickers. See what you eat. Yeah.
And then one more optional method here is, if needed, and generally eating slower is still better for your digestion, but if you're having a tough time getting down enough food, you might need, as a short-term strategy, to eat quickly to 110% full. Shakes can help with this a lot. You can pack a whole lot of calories into a shake. Again, bananas and protein powder and a big old scoop of peanut butter, because again, that's such a calorie-dense food, and then just chug it down. That can be a helpful way for people who have a tough time getting enough intake in to kick themselves into a surplus.
Yeah, and the satiety mechanisms, hence why 20 minutes is that magic number. I like this when I've done this, and with a lot of clients like myself, I'm like, get all your food prepared, ready to roll, set the timer, and you gotta have all this done by 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, for those that, again, that struggle, most people who are naturally very small and very lean naturally eat slowly. They're naturally a little bit more kind of easygoing in that regard. So we got to flip things on their head, like Kyle had said. But yeah, just kind of role reversal there. And yeah, shakes, the Snickers didn't work. That's eventually where I moved to, as I alternated a whole foods with a liquid food. And that's what finally allowed me to start moving the needle in the direction that I wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I remember in high school, my dad doesn't mind sharing this story. I was, again, trying to gain weight with shakes, and my friend's uncle at the time who was training us was like, put ice cream in your shakes. I was like, oh, sweet, this is amazing. This tastes delicious. My dad was like, oh, that sounds good. I want to do that too. He had different goals, right? We shouldn't have done that. I was trying to gain weight. I needed that extra calories. My dad was trying to lose body fat and get slim and trim. He's doing awesome now. At the time, ice cream in the shakes wasn't a good thing for him, right? So just different strategies depending on what the goal is, right? Never be hungry is another line I like to throw out to the people I'm trying to help gain weight. Anytime you go 6 hours without eating, it's just a missed opportunity, right? Like, so you just try to keep yourself from kind of normal to full, normal to full, normal to full, as opposed to everyone else who should be kind of going hungry to satiated, hungry to satiated.
And then those people on maintenance, of course, it's somewhere in the middle.
Yep, yeah, people on maintenance, somewhere in the middle. Right? So the most common barrier here is consistency, far and away, right? There's no failure, only feedback is a great line from Precision Nutrition that we like. Your body is great at maintaining homeostasis. So if you're like, okay, I did my calorie tracking and I'm eating 2,500 calories a day right now and I dropped it to 2,200 and nothing changed. Okay, either you just didn't track as good as you thought you did, or much more likely your body just maintained homeostasis somewhere else that wasn't as directly in your control. Again, you just expended a little less energy moving around throughout your day. And it's like, there's no failure, only feedback. Hey, what you did there didn't work, but let's try another step, right?
Something I kind of like along those lines is the saying, success is hidden in your daily routines. You know, it's boring, it's whatever. Like when we get into some of our stuff that we do, like our morning routines, people look at it and go, well, that's kind of lame. You do it every day. Like, what's the point? But it gives us the results that we want. So we're going to keep doing that and keep moving in that direction because, you know, it allows our body to achieve what we want. And like I said, it doesn't matter how exciting or whatever it is if it works.
Yep.
You know, if you find something that works, stick with it.
Yep. It'll take consistent application of these three concepts to see the changes you want to see. So again, don't freak out and change strategies every week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give it 2 to 4 weeks before you change something. Again, your body might maintain homeostasis for a week, and then okay, now that change starts to come in, right? So, but if you have been consistent for 2 to 4 weeks and haven't seen the needle move in the right direction, or you have and you just feel like, okay, I'm ready to handle more though, revisit those three concepts again, right? If you do these well, it will work. So, strength train. Are your working sets hard enough? You know, again, 0 to 2 reps in the tank. You know, so you might think, man, I'm strength training, but then if you do a little, test and say, I've been doing this weight for 8, and then all of a sudden I can do it for 15. Well, those sets you've been doing for 8 don't even really count anymore, right? Are your working sets hard enough? And do you need more sets per week? So I'm sure the intensity is where you think it is first, but then maybe, hey, add more volume. I'm not seeing my biceps grow to the size I want them to. And we'll try going from 8 sets of curls a week to 12. See what happens, right? Eating sufficient protein. Are you at 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight per day? Preferably on the higher end if you're seeing a plateau, and truthfully and honestly, consistently, right? So I do that, and I probably do like 3 days a week. Well, okay, well then that's room for improvement, right? Do it consistently. And then appropriate total calories. Is your body weight moving in the direction you want? If so, you're doing good. If not, no failure, only feedback. Look at those methods we suggested. Try something else to continue to get that needle to move in the direction that you want it to move to, right? Where are you the least consistent? Where is the lowest hanging fruit for improvement? So again, if you're crushing your protein goal, if your body weight is moving in the direction you want, but it feels like you're not getting the body composition changes you want, well, then maybe look at your strength training routine, right? If you're hitting 6 hard days a week in the gym, you're crushing your protein goal, you're probably going to see, better results from dialing in number 3 than going from that 6th day to a 7th day in the gym, right? There's not as much low-hanging fruit there anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So on that note, let's now look at an awesome set of infographics from Precision Nutrition that look at, the same concepts apply, whether you're someone who's, not in the best shape, trying to get to half decent shape, or someone who's in really good shape trying to get into elite shape. The same concepts apply. It just takes different levels of application of these concepts. Okay, so let's look at these pair athletes here who are in a very kind of normal, healthy body composition here. And it's nothing crazy at all, but this is a solid spot to be, right? What are they doing? They are eating slowly until satisfied at 60% of their meals. They're getting protein and veggies in kind of at least 1 to 2 of their meals per day. They're exercising, moderately, 3 to 5 times a week or so. They're, roughly aware of eating a little less dessert and processed food, fewer caloric beverages, right? What are the benefits of this? They have better health and energy, better sleep, exercise is easy, enjoyable. The cons aren't really that high right now. Little thought and planning, and you'll look solid, but nothing crazy. No one's jaws dropping when you take your shirt off at the beach, right? So that's kind of where these people are at, right? Now, so they want to take it further, right? The same concepts get applied, but to a little bit of a greater degree, right? They're now eating slowly until satisfied at 75% of their meals. They're getting the protein and veg in 2 to 3 meals a day. Their exercise intensity goes up a little bit. Their control with their processed foods and caloric beverages comes down a little bit more. Still nothing crazy here. They're going to see a lot of benefits from this, and the trade-offs still aren't super high, but a little bit more, right? A little more effort, a little more attention, maybe a little bit more preparation in the kitchen, maybe occasionally turning down certain social opportunities in the name of their health, right? Say they want to take it even further. Okay, well, now that consistency with eating slowly till satisfied goes up to 90%, right? They're pretty much getting their protein and veggies at every single meal. They're aware of good, healthy carbohydrate and fat intake. Their exercise routine dials it up a little bit. Their sleep is dialed in. Their desserts and processed food might just be like 1 to 2 times a week, 1 to 2 drinks a week. Hey, again, fit appearance, their health is continuing to improve. It's relatively easy to maintain still once this all becomes a habit. But the trade-offs, even more planning, even more attention, greater time commitment to the exercise routine. You might need some assistance or some coaching to get to this level. Let's even go one level further, right? So, these people are in phenomenal shape now, right? They're eating slowly until satisfied at 95% of their meals. They're hitting their desired macronutrients in all their meals. They're exercising daily. A handful of those sessions a week are at a higher intensity. Their sleep is 8 hours a night. Their desserts and processed food is like once a week, once every other week. Same thing with their alcohol consumption, right? So still they're seeing for their benefit, right? These people are in even better shape. They're probably getting ripped 6-packs by now, and they're pretty dialed in. But they might struggle in certain social situations. They might have to kind of say no to certain opportunities a lot. They might not have time for as many other hobbies outside of their exercise routine. So the further you go, basically, there's just pros and cons, and it just how far do you want to take it is the main point here. The same concepts apply. If you want to improve the body composition further and further, it's your strength training routine, your total protein, and dialing in your total caloric intake. It's just how far do you want to take it? And that's really up to you. We're not here to tell you how far you should.
Yeah, and just a term I like to think about too is people go from the first infographic to the last one is the higher those goals and where you're at, and as you age more, there's a lot more delayed gratification that I would say in there, because you're so focused on where you want to go that you're willing to give up or put off a lot of these other things. Where some people go, well, I can't do that, I don't want to do that. Well, it's all based off your why. I don't know if you guys remember our why podcast that we did, but having that clear and strong in front of you and kind of looking through these 4 different ones and go, what is important to me, where do I want to be, and then kind of pick what's appropriate based upon that. I think that's just such an important piece, because people say one thing, but they're generally not willing to give up certain things. So then it's just like, let's just meet in the middle and find where that is appropriate. So anybody who has achieved really a lot of success in whatever arena, I don't know of one time when delayed gratification hasn't been a part of that. But for us and what we think, and those that you again have achieved a high level of success, most people that I know of will say it was worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Yes, it sucked in the moment, but it was part of the journey, and it makes that end goal where I hit so much more valuable, and you appreciate it so much because of the journey that you're on. A lot of these people want something now without putting in the work, and that's what's hard. Some of these drugs and other stuff that are coming out too that are trying to lean more people towards that, it just doesn't have the same satisfaction, gratification, and those people, because they haven't changed their habits, will go right back to where they were, even if they were able to intervene with something else. So that's something I think is just super important, is going back to the why. What's there? What am I willing to give up for where I want to go? And then surround yourself with people who are like-minded like that, and that makes it so much easier. That's one reason I wanted to do some of the stuff with Kyle, because he challenges and pushes me and makes me want to achieve higher and stuff that I wanted. And when I was his age, some of the stuff was a lot easier for me. Now it's like, oh man, like with a family, with businesses, with 20 years of age on there, these things don't come as easy as they used to. So then there's other stuff that I'll have to change and do. But having all that stuff in the back of your brain as you're kind of helping decide these things of what you want and going after and making these very clear, very actionable, attainable. Again, go back to that podcast we did on goals. And those, like I said, in the why, I think those are just super, super important.
Yeah. My summary would just be, try to be 1% better. Just see where that gets you, right? Don't look at this last slide with this guy at 6 to 9% body fat and be like, well, I'm never gonna get there. No point. You're probably not close to that yet. Like if you just get somewhere along, wherever you're at, improve a little bit, then again, reassess. Do I want to go further? Do I want to go further? Do I want to go further? So, in summary, know the difference between concepts and methods. If it could leave you with anything, it's just knowing that strength training, protein, and then controlling your total intake is what matters. All the other things are ways to meet those concepts. Strength train, number of hard sets a week is the concept. Different exercises or routines are methods. Eating sufficient protein is the concept. Whether you're animal or plant-based, that's a method, right? Eating appropriate total calories is the concept. Focusing on quality foods, eating slowly to 80% full, even other things we didn't talk about like keto or intermittent fasting, they're all methods to meet the concept, right, of controlling your total calories, right? So they can work, but they're not guaranteed to work if you don't follow the big concept, right? All those things I said prior, eating quality foods, slowly to 80% full, keto, intermittent fasting, those are all methods for a deficit. Eating fast, pounding trail mix, never letting yourself be hungry, those are methods for a surplus, right? No failure, only feedback. If it isn't going well, do the 3 concepts better and more consistently. That's all we got for you. Any closing thoughts?
And if you still struggle with that, then reach out. Let us help. Let us see. Sometimes there's something that we're blinded on. Sometimes, like from a training perspective, Kyle, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing, and he'll find a little loophole or something there. What about this? Oh, I didn't even think about that. So I think there's just so much value with that. And then again, surround yourself with people. If you want to get leaner and you're surrounding yourself with people that don't want to or could care less, I might want to pick new friends or find a different group that you want to hang out with. It just makes it easier. So, and then like I said, have that why, have that sucker plastered, and then that way these concepts allow you to be able to shape and mold that and move you in that direction.
Cool. 1% better every day. Have fun. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a review on Spotify, YouTube, or whatever platform you're using. Go to our website, prevailconditioning.com, to learn more about training with us in person or online to not just survive, but thrive.